Welcome, guys, to 31 Vision Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, 31 Vision is a nonprofit organization for athletes, by the athlete, for the athlete. So it's for high school athletes transitioning to college. Things you need to learn on the education side, whether it's ACT prep, SAT prep, FAFSA, clearinghouse, all kinds of stuff. And on the career side, understanding how to deal with coaches, what to do with recruiting, all the nitty gritty stuff. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Dr. Dani. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super
thanks for
excited.
coming.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Like I mentioned, I found up 31 Vision when you had Giselle on your podcast.
Awesome.
So I immediately went on the website, looked at what you were about, and I knew I wanted to be involved with your organization. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for being proactive and reaching out.
You're welcome. Basically, I reached out to the owner, Jonathan. I'm like, hey, this is what I want. This is my vision. He's like, done. Let's make it happen.
Wow.
So he literally built me out of space that out of nowhere that wasn't there.
I didn't know that because when I went to the event, it was already there, obviously.
Yes.
But he built that just for you to have your space to.
He built that just for me to have my space. Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to Jonathan and Gainesville. That's amazing.
Yeah, he came through. He's like, all right, let's make this happen. And I think we just aligned on what we see, our vision. And so it was just a good fit.
That's beautiful, man. I love hearing people helping others, man, because nowadays with the way the culture is, especially in Miami or big cities, it's all about it's a dog eat dog world and it's all about you. But it's really nice to hear people paying it forward,
No, he really is like that. And I think that's why I'm just so happy to call it my home.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about the athletic side. So when did you start playing sports?
So I actually started off as a dancer. Since I was I don't even remember how little, but I danced for about 10 years, a little bit more.
Okay.
And then, I was always athletic. So I would do jazz, ballet competitively, dancing in excess, and obviously local in Miami, they were in Doral. And I also played, soccer, basketball. I was your typical tomboy. That's actually why my parents put me in dance because they're like, you gotta get a little girly. You gotta get a little girly. So, and then, there's always that one coach, but my 7th grade year, my PE teacher's like, hey, we need cross-country runners for the varsity team, just come out. Went out, didn't think of anything. Oh yeah, was just running around a few laps. Never saw that would be my future, right? So I stopped running my 8th grade year, and then there was this one female coach that came. Her name's Rebecca. She now coaches at Belen Middle School.
I saw her at the event. You said that's right. That's right. Okay, it all comes together.
Yeah. So this was she had just graduated college. She ran for FIU. This was her first year coaching, and she literally told me, she's like, all right, you're not a dancer, you're a runner.
You're not a dancer. Get out of here.
Granted, I love dancing, but yeah, she was like, if you want to do this, you have to commit 100% to this. So lucky for my parents, because obviously dance is an inexpensive sport to be in.
I've heard. I've heard.
So I decided to quit dancing, stop playing soccer, stop playing anything else. And I was like, I'm going to dedicate myself 100% to running. I also knew my parents, yes, they were trying to save for college, but realistically, they wouldn't have been able to, pay for me to go to college. So I was like, my goal became from that moment, I want to get a scholarship to take that burden away from my parents.
Wow. That's mature of you.
Yeah. So that set off that journey.
Okay. So did you get the runner's high on the first go? Or it was te antojaste and then it happened and it went great and then the coach was like, hey, do this? Or did you get that runner's high?
Yeah, it's so long ago. I don't really remember, but I do know that I had a natural talent for it, I guess.
Motor.
Yeah. And this was back in Doral Academy. Now, of course, Doral Academy is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, they are.
But back then I went to Doral when it first opened up. We were running around dirt mounds, in the middle of the warehouses, by Dolphin Mall.
You're part of the pioneers.
Basically. And I didn't really have, a team, right? So it was always mostly me being the fastest girl, whatnot. So luckily, I was super grateful to have the boys team because the boys, especially one of the guys, Marco, he was at the event too. Nice. He was like my running brother. He's like, all right. He literally told me, he's like, I might not be a fast guy, but I'm fast enough to help you be one of the fastest girls.
There you go.
So he definitely became my training partner. And then, unfortunately, like anything, she only stayed there for 1 year. She had an opportunity to go back coach at Lourdes, which is the school she went to.
Okay.
So I couldn't blame her for leaving, but then I kind of found myself in a cycle of every year we would get a new coach, right? Which seems to be like a common theme in Miami.
I've been there with football for sure.
What school did you play for?
I went to South Miami High School.
South Miami. Oh, okay. Yeah.
For me, it was not high school. High school, one coach came in and out. That's about it. But in college, man, it was like a carousel of effing coaches, man. It's like I can't get any consistency around here.
Yeah.
You know?
And that was kind of my experience throughout high school and throughout college. So it was super, super frustrating.
Yeah. So for those of you that may be new to sports or don't understand why it matters, whether you have one coach or 5 coaches, you have to build some chemistry with a coach, and different coaches have different philosophies with, running marathons or playing football. So it's not like a one size fits all. So when you have to restart that over and over again, it can get kind of frustrating for an athlete. So we're at 8th grade. Sorry, no, 9th grade, right?
Yeah, 9th grade.
So you started doing math. Yeah. So did you have any goals besides, like, did you have any goals 9th grade? Like, all right, I want to hit this number, or you were just trying your best?
No. It was honestly about, I wanted to make it to states, right? Like,
states, of course.
It be the small school, like class 2A, make it to states. And so that became the goal. So luckily this one coach, Rebecca, although she left, we always kept in touch, right? She's been in my life for that was 9th grade. I'm 32 now, for a really long time now. So every summer, Lourdes would put on this summer camp, and they still do it up to this date. So they basically invited me to come out and train with them in the summers. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Although she left, she always made sure, at least during the summer, that I was able to have a group of girls, coaches to train with. And then she definitely kept up with me, during the season, just as a mentor and friend. But yeah, so like I said, we cycling through coaches. We had a soccer coach that became our cross country coach. We had, there was one track coach who was my science teacher, but funny enough, he actually, I almost got kicked out of the track team one year.
For doing what?
I sprained my ankle. And it was before like a big championship meet. And I was like, I cannot miss this. And, just, I don't know if he was trying to make an example or what, but I was like, I'm going to run through this sprained ankle. I don't care. And he's like, you're suspended for, I forgot how long it was. Yeah. Maybe like, not even a big deal now when I think about it. But at that time it was like, oh my God, it's huge. Yeah. So yeah, definitely learned from that. Like, oh wow, I'm like the fastest runner. I'm here getting suspended. Like, cool. Like anybody can get suspended,
That's really cool. What was the other coach name from Berlin that went to Lourdes? Rebecca. Yeah. That was really cool, Rebecca, man, to look after you, because she could have easily have like just out of sight, out of mind, but she like helped you get along and put you in contact with other people like that. That's a sign of a good coach and a good person.
Yeah,
man,
absolutely.
For sure.
I definitely consider her like my second mom.
So how was Doral Academy as far as education wise? Did it prepare you for college or how was it?
I think it comes down more to like my upbringing with my parents. Like it was always, them coming from Peru, literally going through the whole American dream. We used to have a 1-bedroom efficiency where I slept in the kitchen and
I was an efficiency kid too. Yep.
God.
I know how that goes.
Going to Seminole Elementary, La Guagua.
La Guagua. Better be in that corner waiting for that Guagua. I'm not taking you to school.
Basically, I got tangled. So my parents always instilled in me the mentality of work hard. You got to work, and always try to be the best. So for me, I always wanted to be studious. So that part always came naturally to me.
That's awesome.
I think it's my upbringing, also just how I am as a person. And I only ever knew Doral Academy, so I can't really compare it to, I feel like I don't have something else to compare it until I grew up and became a teacher for a little bit. Okay. So yeah, I feel like Doral did a good job in terms of being a charter school, smarter classes.
And what makes a random question? What makes a charter school a charter school? Like, what's the difference between a charter school and another kind of school?
From what I understand, it is basically all the like Doral Academy, the Matters, the I Matters are owned by a bigger company called Academica. Okay. So I believe that they have that private funding, but they still can qualify for some.
Okay.
Honestly, I feel I should have a better answer to that. But
no worries. Because I've always been curious about like, because most people think public and private, but I hear the word charter get thrown around and I'm like, I wonder Like, what's the difference between charter, private, and public? And I was just wondering.
No,
It's okay.
I always feel like explaining like it's a little bit of both, right? So we're basically owned by a company, so it's kind of like a business.
Right.
And to like get into the school, there's like a lottery system, but it's Miami. Whoever is gonna get in.
Yeah.
So
wow, look, it's you, the person that I've been friends with for 20 years. Oh man.
Yeah. So, but they do try to keep those smaller classes, which they did do a good job. But yeah, I went to Doral Academy since I was in 5th grade,
Yeah.
5th through 12th grade. My teachers that were my teachers now are now like ADs, like principals, athletic directors, and I still keep in touch with them.
That's amazing.
So it's really is like, it was like a family environment for sure.
That's awesome. I definitely cannot say the same for high school.
You don't get that in a public school, right? Like a bigger public school for sure.
I definitely, yeah, that's not my opinion of high school at all. All right. So what, in your opinion, during high school, so this is new to you, so in football or other sports, like if you start at 15 years old, you're behind the 8 ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what in your opinion took you to the next level with, running marathons and passing your competition and getting better? And better?
I think it really is the fact that I grew up dancing and just being an active kid that I sort of accumulated all that undercover training.
Mhm.
And then with the running, it was just a matter of, starting a running program, the specifics of the actual sport. But again, the frustrating part was like what you said, like most of the coaches were not running coaches. So they don't really know how to train you, right? It was funny because my coaches were asking me like, hey, what workout should we do?
And you're like, what?
And I'm like, yeah. So
I need your guidance, not the other way.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. But I think all those, like, again, even just that alone really has shaped the fact that I was like, since I was in high school, I was reading like science books about training theory and running and all that stuff. Because
That's very proactive of you.
I'm a little nerd.
Yeah. No, but a lot of people, being educated about something, it really is a choice. I'm not saying you could be a doctor from today to tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But there are a lot of things that we can educate ourselves on, with our phones or our laptops. But a lot of people choose to stay ignorant about a topic,
Right.
So if it affects you directly, that's the best way to go. Teach yourself, like, instead of just playing victim, like, oh my God, I have the worst coaches, I'm not doing anything. You're like, no, I'm going to read, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to get better. So that's very studious of you. That's
Thank you.
ahead of your time too.
I mean,
I personally wouldn't have done that at 15 years old. I'd be like, oh, well, my coach sucks.
I know, right?
All right, here we go.
You can blame my parents for that. Blame them, thank them, whatever. Right? I just always feel like it's important to be a student of your sport so that you're not just going through the motions. So
that's huge. And to piggyback off that point too, I've mentioned in previous episodes, guys, don't completely put all your eggs in that one basket. Meaning, like, when a coach tells you an opinion about a form of playing your sport, or, do some background, like do your due diligence and do some research. And I'm not saying, the next day show your phone, hey, you're wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying do your due diligence. Coaches are humans, like they could be wrong about something. They could be basing something off of what they heard from somebody else and not facts that they read somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely do your own homework, be studious, and like you said, like be a student of your sport. That's a best way to put it. So high school. So when did you make a run to states throughout any of these years? Did you?
Oh God, you would think I would know this. Remember, this seems so long ago. Yeah. So my freshman year, I qualified for states in track and field.
Sick.
Thank you for the mile. I believe for cross country, I missed it just by a couple. What's it called? Oh my God, I'm blanking out.
Seconds.
By a couple, like just a couple people. You know?
Gotcha.
But I do remember qualifying for track for the mile. I definitely came either last or close to last at that first freshman state meet, but it was definitely what set the tone to like, okay, I want to qualify again. I want to place higher. I want to keep doing this.
No, but to make it your freshman year, you started the previous year. So that year you went to work.
I did.
Like you went from, cross country is a thing to, I'm at states, freshman year, Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I set the bar. So now at least you were around that competition. So you knew like, all right, this time is the time to beat,
Yeah.
So the person, I don't expect you to remember this.
Yeah.
I barely remember yesterday. So, but in states, like, was that person that won, or the people you wanted to beat, were they like your age, or were they seniors already? Or
they were a little bit older. I believe they were like junior seniors, how it typically goes.
Okay.
But I still knew like if I want to get recruited, by D1 schools, I have to be up there, and
Right.
again, this was a whole new world to me. Like I had never thought of trying to get a scholarship because
Yeah.
again, my parents didn't play sports. Like nobody in my family had been in that
Mhm.
scenario.
Same. Yeah.
So it's like if someone hasn't done it before you have no idea. FAFSA, like what is that?
What is it? Yeah.
So like what is that? Like, it's for real. And then also like throughout the recruiting, yeah, it was so much.
I'm sure. And was we'll get to that. We'll get to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I was about to
yeah.
ask
I
you
was like,
college
let's go-
questions. I'm like, you know what? Let me
let's
go
go.
in chronological order. No, we got a good
No,
thing
cross
going here.
country was my jam though. Cross country definitely over track for sure.
So question, all right, because I'm only familiar with track. I'm not very familiar with marathons and cross country. What's it like training for a mile versus, and then another question. So a 2-part question.
Yeah.
So what's it like training for a mile versus what you train for in cross country? And in cross country, is every race always the same distance?
Yeah. So
What's that distance?
In Florida, in Miami, it's 5K. If you're in
Okay.
high school and middle school, it's a 2-mile race.
Okay.
A 2-mile race or 3K, which is basically 2 miles. So everybody's running the 5K. And of
Okay.
course, being in Miami, it's flat, right?
Right.
So the problem comes growing up from Miami. I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit to college, is we're not used to all those hilly stuff. So
Yeah.
it definitely makes it more of a challenge.
Sure.
But yeah, everybody runs the 5K in Miami for cross country.
Gotcha. All right. So what's it like training for a 5K versus 1 mile?
Yeah, the biggest difference is just sort of like those key speed workouts, right? A mile's obviously being a little bit shorter than the 5K. So either way, most of the summer you spend building that base. And then again, it's just slight differences between the workouts. So a mile, you might be focusing more on like 400, 800, the 5K more like tempo work. But honestly, it's a spectrum, right? You do a little bit of both and everything. It's just what time on that training cycle you prioritize certain workouts. But yeah, like kind of the way I like to explain when I coach people is like, you have a 5K goal, like your mile time has to be this, right? In order to run,
Right.
be able to hit that 5. So to me, it's very important to even take it down to how fast you run a 400 because it all builds off of that. So
nice. When you're, how do I word this? So when you're training for something, right? For a certain date or whatever, what in your opinion is a good amount of time? So like, do you just show up to, I know the answer's probably no, but do you just show up to like cross country at your school and you just start your training there? Or how many months before do you think you should be like running or,
So unfortunately, I don't know if things have changed. I just started coaching again. So I feel like might be a little bit different now. But back then I feel like most of the times girls just show up to cross country day 1 and they haven't prepared.
Right.
Right. Unless you come from a private school or a school that has coaches that have actually themselves been runners, like a dedicated coach that has their team training in the summer. So ideally you would start training in the summer, right?
Okay.
So like late June, July to kick off the season.
Okay.
But most people, they don't. So then what happens is they get injured, right?
That's huge.
So I would say for high school, like you definitely want to start training in the summer. And it's a year sport, right? Because most people that run cross country and run track. So as soon as track finishes in like April, I think it's like late April, May, then you take a couple weeks off and then you should kick off your summer training, especially if you have the goal of competing at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Nice. So so we know that your goal was to, get a full scholarly, right? After your freshman year, you're like, all right, I didn't win, but this is what I got to do. So sophomore year, did you ramp up the training or you just did it for a longer time, the same training because you knew like it was successful? Like what did you change going from freshman to sophomore?
Yeah, again,
if you remember, I know it's
you're
a
right.
lot, but
The biggest thing I remember is those summers were key for me. Like I did not miss a single session in the summer. And granted, I grew up in Doral, practiced at a tropical park. So, most practices were in the afternoon, but there were some practices that were at 6 a.m. So here, my parents waking up at 5 a.m. to drop me off. So I feel like the biggest difference was in that summer piece. But all we really did was running, which is crazy to me. Like the lack of strength and conditioning that athletes do, even up to this day, is insane. And then during the season, like I said, I rotated through so many coaches that it was just so many different training philosophies.
When I was in high school, I wasn't taught how to lift. Nothing was like, things were mandatory, quote unquote, but guys would like intentionally miss. They wouldn't care, and then I'm thinking, all right, the more I lift, the better I get.
Mm.
But that's not necessarily true because there is a thing called overtraining
This
that
is
I did
true.
not know that even existed. So I got in my 20s and man, like I was so lost. You don't know until after the fact, until like you educate yourself. And just like you, part of the reason why I educated myself is because I was so lost and I had the wrong guidance, like every step of the way, besides a few people, that I'm like, man, I really got to learn this stuff. And so definitely guys, do your homework, you know, like now you have your phones and your laptops, like look up programs, what they should look like, the people you look up to, you know, like let's say you're a marathon runner.
Yeah.
Who's winning states right now in Florida? All right, this person. All right, so who's their trainer? This person. If they own a gym or if they sell online programs, buy it. Invest in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Do the homework. See what the rubric is, because if your programming is off, your performance is going to follow suit. You know, like talent can only take you so far. And especially as the levels go up, what sets you apart is up here and your programming. It's pretty much it. Absolutely. I don't know if you disagree. You know, it's hard.
I agree. It definitely is in the and there's not many people that are going to come along with you on that journey, right? Especially for so many times I wish like I would have grown up playing soccer or a team sport, because cross country is so individual. Yes, there's a team, but in my case, I didn't really have a team, except one year, which luckily we recruited one of my friends from St. Brendan. She came over and that was awesome. Nice. But it really is an individual sport. Like no one's going to wake up at 6 a.m. and run those miles for you.
No, you know? Definitely not. And some people will think, all right, if I take this one workout off, what's the big deal? Man.
They add up.
Like think about it. If you take one day off a week, that's 4 workouts in a month, right? Multiply that times 3 months, 6 months, 9, 12. It adds up. And then what if a person is doing one more workout than you in a week? So that's 2 workouts you're behind on your competition. And yeah, it's a numbers game, man. Like don't take the workouts lightly, man. Definitely do the work. So we kind of grazed over it a little bit. So you said going to college educationally, you felt like you didn't skip a beat, like from Doral Academy to college education, you were fine.
I mean, it was hard because I majored in biology.
Ouch.
So overachiever over here, yeah.
Ouch. Because that's for med school stuff, right?
Yes,
like
yes.
God.
So I always knew I wanted to do something in medicine. Yeah, let me tell you, organic chemistry. Woo, that's definitely the class to weed out people for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a bio major, and again, because I was a distance runner, I'm not only running cross country, I'm running indoor track, I'm running outdoor track. So I'm literally being a student athlete year round.
So for those people that don't know, what's the difference between indoor and outdoor track?
Yeah. So indoor track, it's basically a 200-meter track inside. And then you have, in terms of the distance size, you have events, up to the 5K. So you'll have like the mile, the 2 mile and the 5K. And then in outdoor track, it's a bigger track, 400 meters. And then we have for the distance side, anywhere from like the 1500, the 3000 meter steeplechase, which basically is essentially running 2 miles over hurdles and a water pit, and 5K and 10K. So outdoor track, just longer distances as well.
Because all I knew about the indoor track until you just told me was, I know that instead of the 100, it was a 60 for like the sprinting and stuff.
Yeah. Indoor track's fun, but it's definitely, it's hard to be running and training year round for sure.
Sure. And is that during the off season of cross country, like indoor? Is that
right? So it's cross countries during the fall, and then indoor track starts kind of in the winter, and then outdoor track is a spring sport.
Gotcha. So if you play your cards right, you can run all year round. Yeah. Would you suggest that, or do you feel like you should take a break?
If you're a distance runner, you honestly don't have a choice. If you're a distance runner, you're running year round.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. Yeah. Dr. Dani said run year round.
They have you competing year round for sure.
All right, so let's go back to the high school. So So did we talk about sophomore year? What happened sophomore year yet?
No. I was just backtracking because today's actually National Girls and Women's Day in Sport, and I posted a video about my 2007 cross country state championship. So I'm just
Jason,
reliving
can we get that later and we can put it when she talks about it, we can put the awesome. Definitely send it to him later.
Yeah, I'll share it with you. Yeah, so basically sophomore year, I remember I made it to cross country states. And
2 years in a row. Let's go.
I believe I got in cross country, I think I got 19th or 20th place.
And how many are there overall? How many places?
And we were class 2A. There was definitely over 100 girls.
Holy shit.
So I'm still up there, right? But kind of after my sophomore year, my goal is like, nah, I want to get top 10, right? Because top 10 gets medals.
I have another question.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know it was that many people.
Yeah.
So does it get dirty in there? Like the elbows,
yes.
Tripping or does the things? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I feel like the girls are dirtier than the boys sometimes. Yeah.
What?
So this was used to be the cross country state meet was at the horse ranch up north. I believe they've changed where states is now, but anyways, back then, so it's literally like where horses race. So there's some hills and stuff. But yeah, that's starting line. Oof, you have all these girls lined up. That gun goes off, and yeah, everybody's trying to throw elbows, just get to the front as quickly as possible. Yeah. So those first, like, even though they say don't go out hard, because obviously you run the risk of dying out, like you really want to establish your position so that you can just, be a little bit more strategic with your race.
Is the beginning of your race, because remember, I'm only a sprinter, so I don't know anything about this.
I wish I was a sprinter.
I'm learning so much from you right now. So, because like let's say someone that runs a 200 or a 400, I also learned from bad experiences, like if you do not have the threshold to sprint the entire sprint, right? Going back to bad training, right here. I was taught like, all right, if you can't do it, don't just shoot out from the gate because you're gonna burn out. You go on that turn on the 200 or on the 400, you're trying to get that last 100.
Oh yeah,
you
got nothing. Gonna jump on your back.
Exactly, and then like my legs are going back like this. I can't even no front side mechanics, nothing, like trash. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm about to fall on my face any second. Oh my god. So are marathons or long distance the same thing? Like you don't want to hit that wall. It's similar.
Yeah,
same thing?
yeah. And this all comes down like, we can geek out on this, but it all comes down to the sort of the energy systems that you're tapping into in your body physiologically. Yeah. But yeah, you want to basically delay how quickly you hit that wall, that lactic acid buildup that naturally slows you down because it is a protective mechanism. So yeah, for distance running, you want to find that good pace that you can sustain for the entire time and then save that little bit of energy for the last, the last 800, last 400 if you need to outkick somebody.
Gotcha. So let's say it's you and somebody else neck and neck. Do you let them set the pace and you reserve that tank, like you said, like don't go past them if you don't need to, like just kind of keep it there and then you really race when it comes to a certain distance? Yeah,
exactly. It's really hard to lead from the front and win because imagine everybody's drafting off of you, right? Especially if it's a windy day, you're definitely expending more energy. I have found myself in these situations where I'm leading. I'm like, well, you wanted to beat Top Gun, you wanted to be big dog. Right. All right, now you're gonna have to work harder, Yeah. So that is something that comes with maturity in the sport and the discipline to pull back the reins.
And keeping your poise, man. Exactly. Keeping your poise in a moment, because a lot of you can probably relate to this. Like, adrenaline's a real thing. Competition's a real thing. You've been preparing for months for this moment, doesn't matter what sport you're in. And more times than not, your competitive nature is going to take over you. And then you have this game plan and you crumble it up and throw it over your shoulder. And then you lose a race by a little bit. It's because you didn't stick to the game plan, Exactly. So I'm sure you have to, like you said, it's maturity. Yeah. Did you ever have do you remember a race where you burned out too hard?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Do you remember like, man, I will never do this again. Do you have any of those?
I'm sure I do. There's one that's coming to mind in college, but again, it was like the distance medley relay, like the teams on the line. Like I had no choice but to go out fast in the mile. Yeah. But I was like, I definitely went out too hard and like vomited all over at the end. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. But if you're in it, you're in it at that point. Like it's really hard. Like you can't go back once you tap into that next level.
Something I will say that I really admire with cross-country runners or anyone who does marathons, you guys have like a mental fortress, because it really is a mind F, it's like,
you got to be a little bit crazy to run.
Yeah, man, because man, I hate running long distance. Like I really despise it. And there's so many benefits to it, and I'll sprint and I'll cover a big distance sprinting. Yeah. So it's just a mental thing. It's really not, you know what I'm saying? Like you can do it, but you just have to set your mind to it. And as soon as your body starts saying like, do I really want to do this? Like you got to kick it. And then it's very different, guys, to just to run at Tropical Park or running at a pace.
Tropical Park, yeah.
People don't get like pace. Like that's a whole other animal. Yeah. Like hitting a number and your coach is like, this time. And you're like, oh my God, I'm 10 seconds behind. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm 5 seconds behind. Oh my God. You're like, it's that takes mental strength,
Yeah. My coach has literally like been like, if you're gonna run stupid, get the hell off the track.
Ooh.
Yeah, like literally in the middle of a race, I'm like, all right.
And you're like, okay,
yeah, we got
heard you
this.
loud and clear.
Yeah, it definitely is tough. And it's crazy though. I feel like my mental toughness was so much stronger in high school. I don't know why. I have no idea why. But the older I've gotten, it's like something that I have to actively work at more.
Yeah.
Which is I just maybe I'm more aware of.
Maybe I was about to say the same thing. Maybe it's just like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not arrogance. Like when you're younger, you're like, you don't know better, you know, and as long as you have that confidence in yourself, you just go, you know, and sometimes not knowing enough is enough.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, it's for real. Like I find myself even up to now, like going through this cycle of like opening a business. It's like, where's that Dani that was like fearless, like in high school? Like, I don't care. Like I'm going to go. Yeah. It's like just trying to find my way back to that.
Another factor I can think of off the top of my head right now is having a safety net. So
yeah,
everybody has different personal circumstances. So somebody that has a family that, you know, if you hit rock bottom, you can go back to mom and dad's house versus that's it. That's it. I'm on the streets, you know, that'll make you rethink some investments or some moves, you know, because as much as I know I have a safety net with my mom, shout out to mom. I love you.
Yeah.
I never want to go back, you know, and I always work. I'm crazy. Like I'll get up 4 or 5 in the morning, train people all day and work with a sense of urgency. Like if I don't have my mom, you know, and that's how we should be. We should work in that mind space. Like I have to make this work, period. Like forget plan B. Exactly. I'm going to do this. If it doesn't work out, cool. I'll learn my lesson from it. But like, don't worry about the safety net. Don't worry about what ifs. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Yeah, it's plan A and only plan A.
Yes. So did we cover sophomore year? Yeah, right. You said
right. So I got 20th and then junior year.
Okay.
So then basically fast forward to junior year, and I think that year I ended up getting 8th at state.
Oof, improving.
Yeah,
let's go.
Moving on up. And then I don't remember track. I was cross country was always my forte. I've always been a stronger, longer distance runner, for sure. And then senior year, I think I got 9th place. So I was lucky to qualify those 2 years, you know, make all day team for cross country. Sick. So that was fun.
Very sick.
And yeah, it was just like I said.
You went to States 4 years. Sorry to interrupt you. You went to States 4 years in a row.
Yes,
right?
I believe so. Yes. I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
That's so badass.
Yeah. Thank you.
A lot of people can't say they went to me. I didn't go to States once. You know, you went every single year. To be fair,
you played a team sport. That's a little bit harder.
Yeah, it is. But still, man, like that's such a great accomplishment, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, it was, I think it was, I can't remember what year it was, my junior year, back to the point of not having a team. I was like, I got to make a change. Like something was like, I want to run for a different school. So, what? Sorry to interrupt you again.
What urged that want? Because you didn't get like to the place you wanted to in States the previous year,
it was just
the changes of coaches. What was it?
It was the continual change of the coaches, but also just like I grew up in a dance team. Like yeah, we were competitive. We would go to nationals, but it was always a team. And now I found myself by myself. And I just miss that like team, the bond. Yeah, the camaraderie of like suffering through workouts. Yes, of course, like I said, I had a couple of the guys, but it's just different when it's like a group of badass women together running, going through that. So I definitely missed that. And then, so I remember I got, you know, Gulliver reached out. They're like, hey, like, do you want to come run for us? So, you know, went and visited the school. But again, didn't, you know, my parents were like, oh, you know, it's a little bit far from where to go. Also, a lot of it really did come down to like the financials as well.
Yeah, of course, Gulliver's. Yeah,
Gulliver's expensive.
It's a good school.
Checked out Lord's, of course, because I was like, man, I would love to finish out with my coach, right? The one that started it all. Like, how badass would that be? Yeah. But ultimately, like growing up in Doral since 5th grade, it was hard to leave.
Yeah,
I was like, it was kind of like, I want to help put Doral on the sort of map in my own way, like
making your own way.
Yeah, being like the only Doral Academy in state championship, you know. So I decided to stay in Doral, and again, I don't regret that decision whatsoever because a lot of those people are still here for me today, you know.
Beautiful. Nice. So you said junior year 8th, senior year 9th. That's awesome. All right, so
or backwards, either or. One or the other.
That's top 10, man. That's awesome.
Top 10.
So, were you thinking? You were always thinking college. You said that before. when did you start dealing with colleges yourself, or when did your parents start? Like, was it junior year, sophomore, only
Yeah.
senior? Do you
I
remember?
think I started receiving letters my junior year.
Okay.
But again, my parents didn't know any of the processes, right? So
Mhm.
like the NCAA clearinghouse, like, and I
Mhm.
felt like my same thing with the AD of my school. We were kind of learning as we went because
Yeah.
it was a smaller school. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're getting these letters.
Yeah.
And then I started with like schools a little bit more up north, like Tennessee, stuff like that. And then I
Mhm.
got some offers from local schools.
Nice.
So then that kicked off sort of the recruiting visits, which were awesome,
Nice.
which were very fun.
So if you're not familiar with the recruiting process, guys, going on visits is crucial, crucial, because you should never commit to a school if you haven't gone.
Yes.
If you have to because of certain circumstances and the deadline is upon you, then do what's best for you. But I definitely suggest to visit the school. Definitely talk to current athletes that are there. Recruiters and coaches are gonna whisper sweet nothings into your ear. So yes, indulge them, but talk to the current athletes. I stress that to my high school guys so much.
Yeah.
Talk to the current athletes. Find out what year they're in. Like if you want to start right away at your school and you want to compete, sometimes if there's a sophomore, that sophomore might be there for junior, senior year. So for you to take somebody's spot, it's tough. But if they're a senior, you might be a perfect fit as a freshman to come in and replace that senior, that big hole, So definitely visit your schools, guys. Definitely visit. So you were going on visits?
Yeah, so I went to visit at UNF, so North Florida, up in Jacksonville, UM, FIU, and Nova Southeastern. So it was great, right? It was like they, paid for my parents to come out, hotels, all that stuff. Nice. It was super fun. Ultimately, I ended up deciding to go to FIU.
Okay, stay home. Good.
Kind of a little backstory to that is, like I mentioned, my coach Rebecca ran for FIU.
Nice. Keeping it in the
house. I had met the coach from FIU when I was still in high school. Like I would go on some runs with them. So I kind of already felt a little bit of that family vibe.
Nice.
And I feel like my mom would always be like, don't make decisions based on everybody. I've learned that lesson, right? Mm-hmm. I ended up committing to FIU, which was incredible, right? Because they were still a D1 school, even though FIU was a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. They really did a great job at taking us to some bigger meets, right? But unfortunately, the coach that had recruited me ended up leaving. Same thing.
Oh my God.
My freshman year.
I know what that's like. Oh my God, so frustrating.
God. And I remember when he told me, I was like, no, like I can't be in this position again. And then we cycled through, I think I cycled through three coaches. Yeah. The silver lining of that was the coach that, had recruited me for UM, he ended up coming to FIU.
Okay.
Yeah.
So familiar.
Yeah. So it's Coach Ward, Mike Ward. He's badass coach. He's like trained Olympians. And so he's the one and I'm actually coaching with him at Carrollton now. So
amazing.
Yeah, he really made that difference. But FIU, super grateful for the opportunity to not only, like I said, get an education, but we went to Mount Sac relays, like New York, like Penn State, like a bunch of big meets that I didn't think we would be going to.
So question, with college cross country, it sounds like you have a choice in what races to pick. So is there schools that sandbag and try to get in like easier? So like my question is, I'm assuming there's some kind of point system for winning. So like the higher the harder the race, the more points you get. And then if you're in other ones, or are you forced to choose between like a certain number of races? Or
so in cross country is you have to have I think I understood the question. In cross country, you have to compete, in the whatever amount of races before you can go to the conference championship, right?
Okay.
But your coaches really ultimately decide which ones you go to, right? So sure, we could have gone to a lot of smaller meets to win, but
but that's not the comp.
That's not the fun, right? At least to me, like I want to have competition. I want to test myself and push myself. Yes, it's nice to win, but I want to be able to.
We're not here to stroke my ego. I'm here to really win against the best.
I really want to compete. And then our school just did a good job and we were the Sunbelt Conference at that time. I think now they're Conference USA.
Yeah, they changed. No, because the reason why I asked that is because I'm seeing a trend now in youth sports that I'm really hating, and like leagues are starting to split up, right? So there's like a League A and a League B, And I really don't like that.
Is that by like
if you,
difficulty level or?
it's by not hurting people's feelings level. So it's like, so if you're getting smacked in League A,
Mhm.
because that's where the best people are at, you go to League B. And then if you win League B, it's like, did you really win? You know what I'm saying?
Listen, this reminds me of like participation.
Yeah, man.
Oh
It's
my
like participation trophies. It's just like,
Yeah.
like me as a parent, like I understand like your kid's confidence is so important. With that being said, if you really want your young athlete to get better and they're not playing against the best, I understand in the youth aspect of things, they may not get all the ribbons, all the trophies and stuff, but this is for something that you want to do in high school and college,
Exactly.
right? So isn't the improvement the bottom line? You know, so I feel like that's getting lost in translation. And now these kids are playing football in the B leagues,
And
all
thinking
youth, thinking they're
top shit, yeah.
exactly. And then they go to high school and they get smacked, or they're backups for like 2 or 3 years because they're not as good as they thought they were. You know what I mean? So I hate the A and B stuff. That's why I was asking the races, because I pictured in my head like, oh, what if a cross country coach wants to just get a bunch of first place stuff, but doesn't really go against the best of the best?
Yeah, you
know?
definitely can. We can definitely, set up your schedule like that. But yeah, I feel like that does more harm than good in the long run for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So
in college, so you got your ultimate goal. So what, I know in football, there are partial scholarships and full scholarships. Can you explain a little bit the process? So once you committed to FIU, did you get a full scholarship? Was there conditions to your scholarship or?
Yeah, right. So it all comes down to obviously how many scholarships are available, and we can even take it back to like Title IX. But yeah, so I got, from what I remember, 75% athletic scholarship. And then again, because I had solid grades, I had academic scholarship to feed the rest.
Nice.
And then I feel like it wasn't written like in stone, like you had to medal like conference or score a conference. But if you wanted to keep your scholarship, you knew you had to score a conference, right?
Yeah, you had to perform.
Yeah, you had to perform. So that was always, it was a full-time job. Like
it was like hanging over you, right? A little bit.
All the time. Yeah. So not only, like I said, biology is not an easy major. So making sure that I kept my academic scholarship and the athletic scholarship. But luckily for me, combining those two, I left college with no loans, no debt from that.
Wow, that is a blessing, man. Coming from someone
really
that's paying their loans right now.
Yeah.
Man, because I did earn a scholarship as a walk-on for my last couple years, but before then, I had to transfer from school to school. So it took me 6 years to get a bachelor's, right? So I'm bouncing from school to school and I'm losing credits.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that killed me. And that's part of why 31 Vision exists, guys, because just like Dani was saying earlier, she was going through things and not really because of her parents not being in that process. She didn't know how to do this or that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the situation I was in. I'm transferring from school to school, trying to get the best football situation possible. Yeah. But my education side was suffering for it, for not knowing better, or not understanding transfer rules for eligibility and for education.
Exactly. I actually missed out on my senior year cross country because of a eligibility, like a credit rule that I just like overlooked.
And going on that, what happened there?
I don't even remember, but I think it was like you needed to take full time is what, 12 credits?
12, yeah.
Yeah. And I had full time, but I don't exactly remember, but somehow one of my classes didn't end up counting towards that.
Yeah.
And so I was ineligible.
So you had 9 on paper.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I wasn't eligible for that. And I missed out on my senior cross country.
No way.
So I wish I could take that back. I always hear of like people going back and running and like NAIA because you have more freedom. Right. And I'm like, am I too old? But I had redshirted 1 year because I got injured. Yeah. So I no longer had eligibility.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
So I got to I was able to train and then get ready for track. But I mean, that's missing out a whole year of running, a whole season of running.
I can relate to that. Because in Division 2, I don't know how D1 is for cross country, but in Division 2, it goes by full-time semesters. It's not in football. In D1, it's 5 years to play 4 seasons. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, same thing. Yeah. But with Division 2, it's full-time semesters. So you can do like the football season and then not do the spring and then go back. But you need to have a certain amount of credits. Mm-hmm. Even though you didn't do full time, you still have to have an X amount of credits for that calendar year.
Gotcha.
For education. So the coach tells me, so I had 1 semester left. So instead of graduating in the spring and wasting that semester, I take the spring off. I take the 9 credits that I thought I needed, plus 3 more in the summer or 6 in the summer, something like that. A week before, and I stayed the whole summer, right? And a week before game 1, my coach goes, yeah, you're not eligible to play. And then my senior year is done. So I could have graduated the year before.
And you delayed it.
And I did all of this just for the coach to be like, oh yeah, no, we made some kind of mistake and you still needed another 6 credit. I forgot what the number was, but long story short, I didn't play.
That's terrible.
You know, so I can definitely relate to you on
You can't get that season back. It's like,
and it's not just your, it's not the first, second, or third. It's your last season.
Yeah.
Like that hurts, man. So I can relate to you on that. That's
that
tough.
Hurts. And it goes by fast, man. When I first started as a freshman, I remember like the senior runners being like, hey, even my coach, enjoy it because it flies by. I'm like, you're right.
Right. That's 4 years from now.
Be all right. No, it flies by.
It really does. Like, because think about it, like, I'm so happy that college athletes get paid now. Some people don't agree. Some people don't agree with me, but for those of you that are in high school and you think that it's going to be like the movies, like, oh, I'm going to have a social life, you're so mistaken. Like, if you're really going to be all in for your sport, or even if you're not, actually, let me correct that. Even if you're not all in for your sport and you're going to do 0 extra work, you're still going to not have a life, because by the time if you want to shower and eat, right? By the time you lift, right? You lift, you do your training for whatever that is, you have your meetings, you go to school, you shower and eat, hopefully. That's it. If unless you want to cut on your sleep, and then you repeat. So it's a job, man. So I'm glad they get paid for that. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't know how. I don't know how we would have practice at like 5:30 in the morning. Go to class, then come back and lift in the afternoon, and then our second run of the day. And yeah, I definitely missed a lot of sleep just studying for, those hard science classes. I can't believe you
had, bro. That's crazy. Yeah. It gives me anxiety thinking of football with a biology major. Oh God, just thinking of like everything I had to do. You guys more meetings,
like watching tape and stuff. Forget about it. No. That's crazy. Plus like study hall, if you had to go like your freshman year, like mandatory.
And then because I was transferring and bouncing around, it was my first season with that school. So even though I had a decent GPA, I had to go to study hall, and I was like, oh my God, I just don't want to be here. Oh man. So if you're not familiar with study hall, guys, your freshman year, usually if you get a certain GPA, you can get out of study hall the following year. Now, if you fall within that range and you don't hit that number with your GPA, or you get in trouble with school, then you're going to stay in study hall, or you might even get more hours with study hall to make sure that you have academic success. Because they at the end of the day, they do want to keep you there because you are an investment for those 4 years, So what's your takeaway from college educationally? Besides it being stressful you studying to be a doctor.
Right? I think it goes back to me being really the first family member going to college. Like, I chose biology because I wanted to do something in medicine.
Yeah.
Then I graduated and I was like, well, what do I do with it, right? I spent so much time focusing on being an athlete and trying to balance that I wasn't thinking of like for example, I would have applied to med school.
Yeah.
But what did that require? Like shadowing hours but there was at least
no time.
There was no time. I'm sure there was, right? We always say you can make the time. But one thing I wish I would have known a little bit more in going into college is like biology is a very useful, degree for everything, but maybe go into finance is something that's a little bit more, so I have a little bit more of a clear plan. And then, so I guess biggest takeaway is honestly, if you want to get it done, you'll get it done. There's a way to do it, but it's not easy. And it's a lonely road. Like you said, social life, forget about it. Even in high school, like I missed my grad bash because that was the same day as my track state meet. But I was like, how many people can say they're running at the state championship meet?
Right.
So grad bash, forget about it.
And your aim was so high because you already got a taste of it your freshman year. So what, you're just going to not go your sophomore, junior, senior?
Yeah.
Like, no, the bar is set.
Yeah, I was like, I'll go to a grad bash like as a teacher or something.
Yeah, forget that. And that takes a certain level of maturity, guys, to be able to understand what Dr. Dani was just saying, which is seeing the bigger picture and understanding that the people next to you, your friends, your family sometimes, they don't have to deal with the consequences of missing training like you do, and I don't mean getting punished by your coach. I mean, just your performance hurting that little bit. And if you lose by a little bit, you're going to think about those times that you prioritize your social life over performance or over your craft. So always prioritize the craft, because I'm going to be real with you. Most of those people aren't going to be there. not your family, but like your friends in high school, most of them aren't going to be there. You know what I'm saying? And if they are your real friends, they will be there. So there's no need to prioritize relationships or friends over what's best for you, you know?
Yeah, let's like honestly, I think my freshman year, I don't even remember, like I did try to have a social life and I almost lost my scholarship. Like, like I almost did.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my coach, I won't go into the details of it, but we ended up having to do like volunteer hours to kind of as punishment.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, I better shape up fast,
Yeah.
So if I could go back and do it all over again, I would. As disciplined as I was, I feel like I needed to be 3 times more, right? Yeah. Like do 3 times more the work.
Especially with your educational load.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's no easy task. So I want to talk a little bit about, earlier I was mentioning, like cross-country runners, you guys have such strong minds. How does that relate, having that mental toughness? How does that relate to running your own business, and how can that,
Yeah.
relate?
So when I kind of started this air performance here in Miami, it was like I kind of really sat down and evaluated like what is it that always kind of keeps me going. Like I failed again. Like what is it? And the common theme that came to me which is why that's sort of the motto of my practice, is rise above, right? Like you're always looking to better yourself. Definitely the mentality of running. Like I said, it's not easy. You're out there running hours, especially when I'm training for marathons, 2 hours at a time, and that mental toughness. It comes down to the fact that nobody else is going to wake up and do it for you. Nobody else is going to log those miles. Same thing for your business or your dream or any goal that you have. No one is going to create it for you. So if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. Yes, people are going to support you along the way. But the other day I heard this, I was listening to a podcast and it was like, as you're rising up, pay attention to who stays around in your corner. And the road
because that does change.
Yes, the road gets even lonelier. Like people you think that are supporting you, all of a sudden, they fall off. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's you, yourself, that's going to make it happen. And that's not to say that people aren't going to help you along the way, but the burning desire to keep moving forward has to come from you. And
especially having that burning desire when you're not seeing instant gratification, that's a big one too. Because let's say like you do your run and that day, like you weren't feeling it and you didn't have the numbers that you wanted, you got to go back tomorrow.
Exactly.
And the day after. And then maybe down the line, you'll hit that PR. But you wouldn't hit that PR if you didn't have those bad days first.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I coach runners as well. And with a lot of beginner runners, they think they're going to PR, which means get your best time.
Yeah, your personal.
Every single time.
Like, are you crazy?
I was like, they're like, but I'm like, I've been running for over 10 years. This is like 10 years that you've been putting the work, Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen overnight, which is something that I think it's a valuable, especially for, younger athletes and stuff. Like, don't compare yourself to what that senior is doing.
Right.
They have that much more time ahead of you, you know? Just control what you can and know that it will pay off. It's not going to be tomorrow or maybe a week, not even a month. Mm-hmm. But think of that, like we said, that long-term plan, that long-term vision.
Coming from, because I'm very big on speed training. It's just sprints, not long distance, but it's a conversation I have to have very often with parents. Parents have this crazy perspective, like, oh, yo voy a traer fulano de tal for once a week, for every now and then. Can you get them faster? What am I going to do with this athlete once a week or once every 2 weeks for speed training? Like, it's not that easy. Like, I need to see you repeatedly to change those habits of how you run, because we naturally run a certain way.
Exactly.
And most of us do not run correctly. And I can't fix that every now and then. So it's something you need to be consistent with. And it's not just running, but running with a purpose.
Right.
Understanding how to do things. And a lot of people overlook that. That's really hard to do. It's like changing a shot in basketball or a swing in golf or it's hard.
And I don't know if that's a Miami thing, but everybody wants that quick fix.
I think it's part Miami because it's so fast,
right?
But part this generation in general, because you see everything on your phone, you see all this success. Nope. There are some people that they show really cool videos of like the journey.
Yeah.
But most people don't show the journey.
Yeah.
Everything seems very out of the blue. But like, for example, I went to your event. All I saw was air performance. Oh, it's here. I had no idea that Jonathan, you said?
Yeah.
That Jonathan helped you make the little thing and you spoke to him. You're like, yo, this is what I want to make happen. But to me, that's out of the blue. So it's all about perspective. Like a lot of work went into you having air performance.
Oh, absolutely.
But to me, I'm like, oh, I went to Gainesfit, air performance. Cool. I'm out of here.
Yeah. No.
People don't see the work. All right. So if you can travel, you kind of answer some stuff. I'm gonna ask you just in case you have another answer. If you can travel in time and talk to your younger self, what would be like a piece of advice you would give yourself?
Don't be scared of taking risk, for sure.
Be fearless.
Yes. And the one instant that comes to mind, and again, I always quote this one because it's something that's always in the back of my head is, again, super grateful. You know, I ran for FIU or stuff, but yeah, I wanted to go to UF, right? I applied to UF. I got in academically, but I wasn't I would have had to walk onto their team. So
that would mean paying for school.
Right. And like with the hope of maybe earning a scholarship. So
yeah, F that.
Right, F that. So I was like, nah, forget that. But that's always something I'm like, what if I would have gotten on and like worked hard? Would that journey have led me somewhere else? I feel like everything happens for a reason. I really do. But at the end, it's like, don't be scared of taking risk, which is something that I'm working on now, you know, like going 100% into opening air performance.
Yeah.
Like you said, yeah, sure, I could go back to mom and dad's house, but I don't want to go back.
No.
Like they have their own things going on, you know?
Right.
So.
All right. So before we wrap up, do you have any advice for our young viewers, especially marathon runners? Anything you want to say?
I think kind of what we said is the biggest thing for me is definitely be a student of your sport, but reach out. Don't be scared to reach out to people that you see. Like you'll be surprised how much people are willing to help you. If anybody, you know, wants to reach out to me, has any questions on, you know, training, coaching, physical therapy, just little thing. My practice is for specifically for runners. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help out in whatever way I can.
Amazing. Make sure to check out Air Performance, guys. The tag will be at the bottom of the screen. If you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for tuning in.